Hi, future librarians. Stephanie here, and I wanted to talk to y'all about how you can make sure that you are selecting books appropriately for your future or current libraries. So, we're going to go through a process that I would do in my own library. So, for example, I am in a middle school library, and my students age from 10 to 11 all the way up to 14 and 15. Because I'm in a Title I school, when I'm looking at books for age appropriateness as well as subject and content appropriateness, I want to look for books that fall between maybe fourth to fifth grade, all the way up to ninth grade, only because I have such a broad spectrum of students and their um, content that would be applicable to them. So, in doing so, we're going to go over a few books that I think would be both be easy picks, but one that could be a difficult pick. So, we are going to start with a graphic novel, one that I know everyone loves, and we're going to go with Dogman. So, what I'm going to do first, the easiest way to find your reviews is to go to Follett Tidal Wave. This is kind of a hack or a cheat if you want to consider that. But I always start at Tidal Wave because they keep their reviews in the books themselves. So we are going to use my work login. Oh, I guess not. Never mind. No, we're not. Okay, so now that we are in Tidal Wave, we are going to use the search function to look for the book. So I'm just going to do Dogman, and I'm just going to do it in general just to find one of their titles. So we're going to look through here, and you want to make sure that you're looking for a single book, not necessarily the entire series. So I'm going to go for Mothering Heights. Now, because I know my students love these books, I cannot keep them on the shelves during the school year. I would automatically just add it. And because if I did a search in Destiny, I can see that all of the schools in my district have Dogman, so it wouldn't be an issue. But if you want to see the reviews, you're going to scroll all the way down past the product details to full text reviews. So we're going to go through this full text review completely through it and see how it relates. So it says, love is something eternal. It may change in aspect, but not in essence. Quoting Vincent van Gogh in its epigraph, the latest adventure in the Dogman saga ramps the previous installment's love theme up to 11. From the nascent romance of Chief and Nurse Lady through the ever-evolving familial bond between Petey and Lil Petey to some begrudgingly partner cats in crime, the story doles out the sap more gleefully than a maple tree in spring, but never at the expense of the action-packed shenanigans so characteristic of the series. The villains of the hour are realized with gusto and panache, with almost a third of the book and a great deal of ensemble help devoted to the epic battle. Indeed, the series seems en route to becoming more of an ensemble affair as it progresses, an unexpected but not unwelcome development. True to form, Petey's arc meets out a dose of sobering reality. The overbearing societal forces keeping him chained to the life of a criminal are played dramatically against the redemptive power of forgiveness and love. Striking color, interactive pages, drawing tutorials, and a plethora of laugh out loud materials all work to keep readers' attention on a tight leash. Of special note is the liberal use of increasingly bizarre onomatopoeia, several instances of which contain amusing pop culture references. Human characters are diverse, reaches great heights of humor, of course. It also says that it's a graphic adventure, and it has 7 to 18. Now you do have to be careful when you're reading reviews because different reviewers have different numbers at the end. In this case, Kirkus does ages. Other reviews will do grade levels, as well as reading levels. So this one, I know Kirkus does ages, so this would be appropriate for 7 to 18-year-olds. So if a Dogman book, or specifically this Dogman book, was challenged, I could say, hey, Kirkus reviewed it and said it would be appropriate for 7 to 18-year-olds, so I could have it in an elementary, middle school, or a high school. Another one we're going to look at is a very controversial graphic novel, Mouse. So, if you haven't been following the news, Mouse has been a banned book this year for multiple reasons. And we are going to look at the first installment of the book and see what the reviews would say. Okay, so I'm going to scroll all the way through all the information. Now, I can easily see it has won a lot of awards, right? There's lots of things that fall under Mouse's um, list of accreditations that it has. So we're going to look at the review and keep in mind that I am in a middle school. Okay. YA told with chilling realism in an unusual comic book format. This is more than a tale of surviving the Holocaust. Spiegelman relates the effect of those two events on the survivors' later years and upon the lives of the following generation. Each scene opens at the elder Spiegelman's home in Rego Park, New York. Art, who was born after the war, is visiting his father to record his experiences in Nazi-occupied Poland. The Nazis, portrayed as cats, gradually introduce increasingly repressive measures until the Jews, drawn as mice, are systematically hunted and herded toward the final solution. Vladek saves himself and his wife by a combination of luck and wits, all the time enduring the torment of hunted outcast. The other theme of the book is Art's troubled adjustment to life as he, too, bears the burden of his parents' experiences. This is a complex book. It relates events with young adults, as the future architects of society must confront, and their interest is to be sure to be caught by the skillful graphics and suspended unfolding of the story. Now you'll notice this does not have an age or a grade level. But it does have in the awards, we've got ALA Notable Children's Books, but it was in 95, and this review is from 87. So this is one where you would have to be very careful and read between the lines. So I'm already looking, the beginning says YA told, which is young adult. As a middle school librarian, I am very, very careful when selecting YA for my library. A lot of times I will put a YA sticker underneath the genre sticker, and that way I can have a conversation with a student before they check it out. Maybe if I know it's a sixth grader, we have a discussion, just making sure that they know what they're getting into. But I would also take into account the fact that this is a book that is portraying the Holocaust. My students in middle school don't go over the Holocaust in great detail. So this book would not really need to be in my collection, specifically because it does not support the curriculum that my students are learning at this grade level. Now, am I saying it's inappropriate? Absolutely not. Is this book wonderful? Absolutely. Has it won a ton of awards? Absolutely. But thinking about the social climate that we're in, this would not be a book that would need to be in my middle school library. If something happened, I could easily just send it off to my high school library, say, hey, I don't feel this is appropriate material for my middle school, but I do want it in the high school. And so then the students can borrow it. They can order it from the high school through ILLs if it's approved by the librarian. Sometimes if they have a note from their teacher explaining why. But again, you just want to be very careful. All right, we're going to look at two more books. Next, we're going to look at one of my favorites, We Were Liars. So We Were Liars, if you have not read it, is an amazing book where the main character uncovers a secret about herself and her family. It is a very heartbreaking book at the end if you haven't read it. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but in the last middle school I worked at, I had it in my library because my students were from a very, very affluent background. They were primarily white. A lot of them did have vacations where they had, private spaces where they would go with their entire family. So they could relate to this material. Now, could they relate to there being a fire where people possibly died? Could they relate to family fighting over heirlooms or money? That I don't know, but I do know that some of my students would be able to relate to the material. That being said, excuse me, it is a thriller. And the students at my last library were very, very into mysteries. I had one of the largest mystery and thriller sections in my district because they loved them so much. And so that was also part of my choosing. Oh, sorry, this is Family of Liars. We Were Liars in my past library. Now, the library I am in now is again in a Title I school. My students are not from an affluent background, but would this book give them an experience in a way that they would never get to experience something? Absolutely. So I do want you to think about those things as well. So we're going to go through and look at the reviews for this book. We scroll, and we see award, starred review, starred review, starred review, starred review, starred review. Okay. These were from 2014. This is 8 years ago. So it is still something recent. You would also think that the prequel just recently came out And so that might be a way to, discuss having both books in your library. You'll notice this one has 6 reviews. So we're just going to skim. All right. So the first one, book list, says grades 7 through 12. That automatically tells me, okay, book list says this could be in my library. If we just scroll through and see some other ones, but Kirkus says age 14 and up, which is 8th grade at my school. Okay. Then if we keep scrolling, Publishers Weekly says age 12 and up. 12 is 7th grade at my school. And then School Library Journal, this is the game changer, says grade 9 and up. So again, you have to be very careful and read between the lines of the reviews to make the decision if this book belongs in your library. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I would say, again, think about your student's background. Think about, are they going to get something out of this book that they wouldn't be able to otherwise get? And does it support your curriculum, or would your students just enjoy it? If a student, I have a wish list on my circ desk where my students write titles of books that they want me to order. If a student specifically requested it, sometimes I just order it based on that. But again, I would go through these reviews just to CYA and make sure that these reviews support your buying this book for your library. Okay? Now, the last book we're going to look at, y'all are going to laugh, I hope, but here we go. We are going to do A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. If you have not read this series, you need to read it. I love it. It is amazing. Sarah Maas is a wizard with words. Now, she is amazing. Now, you'll know, if you don't already know, she has 2 series, Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses. Throne of Glass starts out appropriate for middle school, but as the series goes on, it becomes YA and then becomes more appropriate for adult fiction. A Court of Thorns and Roses, I would never put in a middle school. When I worked in a high school, we did have it, but as the series goes on, again, it becomes more adult. So you would have to make those decisions. Okay, so going on. Again, I said I would never put A Court of Thorns and Roses in my middle school library, and here's why. We're going to look through here. Ooh, so this is a situation where we don't have the reviews posted, but you can see right here from the publisher says the sexy action-packed first book. If something is sexy straight out, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to put it in my middle school library. But let's go through and see if we can find a review. All right, let's look at this one. Court of Thorns and Roses paperback. All right, so just from looking at it here, the interest level is YA, which again, you have to be careful if you're in a middle school. All right, okay, cool. Now we have awards. So, book list starred review. We've got some reviews, but there's only 1 starred. Okay, so first off, in the text reviews, it says grades 10 to 12. Okay, we got 10 to 12 there. Kirkus reviews says 14 and up, which is 14 is 8th grade. So we're going to look through the review. Let's see if any more of these say anything. School Library Journal says grade 9 and up. So that's already telling me these books are going to be more appropriate for high school than anything. But if you start at the beginning of the publisher's weekly review, it says 19-year-old Feyre. So this tells me my students are not 19. The oldest they get is maybe 15 in middle school. So they're not going to relate to this age. So this already would kind of tell me, maybe not for my middle school kiddos. If I'm going to look through, I don't know why, but I love Kirkus reviews the most. I feel like they're the most blunt and honest. So it says, Wild Dude take on Beauty and the Beast, fairies who enslaved them, a treaty. She kills a wolf that's a fae. Dangerous fairies love tormenting humans. Tamlin is a beautiful, powerful one of the 7 lords of fairy. Their romantic courtship sizzles with sexual tension before reaching a consensual consummation conveyed in appropriately brutish language. Okay, that sentence right there, I would not put it in my middle school library. Would I put it in a high school library? Maybe. But I would not put it in a middle school library just because 19, the main character is 19. The reviews already tell me this probably should not be material for my middle school, and that sentence right there, no, straight no. So sometimes, yes, you want to look at the age for the reviews, but you also want to look at the actual review. Don't trust just those grade levels. Don't trust just those ages. You want to make sure that you're reading between the lines, because in the year that we're in and the social climate we're in, you want to make sure that you are covering all of your bases. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Bye.